took the input shaft apart just to give it a bit of a clean and make sure it all goes back together exactly as it should. I did take it apart when I took it out of the engine, but I might have slipped spline bushings on incorrectly, so I just need to make sure it's all fine before I put it back in and seal the engine up. Yeah, there's nothing coming off it. It's gritty or anything like that, so should be alright, I think. Look at that bluing though. Obviously this engine has suffered with a little bit of overheating at some point. Splines are all good though on all of the teeth. These little circlips are absolute buggers to get off. You need a really good set of circlip pliers and a lot of patience. It's because they're open-ended, which is really annoying. They just keep slipping off and they're very springy. Right, first thing to go on then is the 4th gear bushing. Slot that on there so there's no splines. It's got an oiling groove in the centre and a little oiling hole there, so you can just slot that on. This is 1st gear, by the way, it's fixed onto the shaft. Oh no, I'm looking at the end of the shaft of the bush. Looking at it, it looks like it's pressed on. Anyway, either way, let's get the next piece on, which is the actual 4th gear itself. Looking pretty good, teeth are okay. I think I probably wiped through all of the teeth when I took it out. It's looking pretty impressively in good condition, so all the dogs are nice and square, nothing rounded off. So let's fit this on. Just slips over the bush. Dogs facing outwards. Next on is a little splined washer. You can see that he's very blued, and just further evidence of some heat damage over time. I don't think this has got any way it needs to go on. That's pretty flat. That does look a little beveled, but can't see that makes any difference, so I'm just going to slip it on. Okay, and then next is one of these awful little circlips, and you can see they just get, I don't know if you can see that, but they do get, there you go, twisted. They're not very good. Be a bit worried to try and untwist it because it might snap. The issue is when you kind of try and splay the pins, well not the pins, when you try and splay the ends apart, they do just twist even further. So that sounded like it landed on the bench. Yeah, it did, it went under the engine. But you can see the problem trying to put these things back on. So it's gonna slot into that groove there as I try and move it across. It needs to go over, right over into this groove over here. This groove right here. So it sits behind these splines. See if we can pull it on. That's what happens the whole time. You just keep dropping out of the little grooves. They just slide off, particularly when the thing's trying to twist. If we can get it over that one, and we're quite a lot of the way done. Pull that away, do we? Oh, that sounded like it clicked in, actually. Yeah, that clicked straight into place. That was considerably easier to get in than it was to remove it. So it's the second and third combination gear next, and yeah, again I think I've already kind of gone over it and cleaned it. I've got no gritty nasties in there anywhere. So run that through. Yeah, seems fine. So yeah, this is splined. You've got oiling holes all the way round. You can't fit it incorrectly on the shaft unless you just put it the wrong way round. So second gear towards the fourth gear. Right, we need to put the other circlip on now, which looks in slightly better condition than the other one. This obviously has to be free to move backwards and forwards this way, that's why there's a big gap there. So let's get the circlip pliers on that. See if we can encourage that on without too much trouble. Just check all around, make sure it's seated in the groove. Sometimes you have to give these things a little poke if you can't quite see it close enough, and you can hear the little snap as they drop in, but this is in, it's rotating okay. Okay, the next thing to put on is the fifth gear bushing. Again, that's splined, just cleaning the outside up, but it's all perfectly clean inside. There's an oiling hole there, needs to line up with the oiling hole there. And install fifth gear, all pretty good. Dogs towards the third gear. Okay. Thrust washer next. You can see that's all blued as well. Now I did have these on the wrong way when I'd thrown it back together. There you go. And then the needle roller bearing. Just give that a little wipe over. All pretty good. And then the outer race. I'm just going to drop some oil on that. You could just oil these up as you go, but oil will get into the system quite quickly. As you put it all together, you've got this last little plate. It just sits in the end. Okay, so now we just need to drop this into the upper crankcase so that it engages with the forks. Okay. These have been washed so much, but you know, they're out in the open and all kinds of bits and bobs lands on them, so just want to make sure everything is cleaned off as we assemble. Crikey. I'm doing that the wrong way, aren't I? Okay, so the orifice plate dropped out, so the orifice, the outer race of the needle bearing sits in there, and then the large roller bearing sits there, and you just need to make sure the fork drops in to the middle of the second and third combination gear. There you go. It's no more complicated than that. That is fitting the input shaft, so much simpler than fitting the output shaft. There you go. Just freeing that up. As you can see, you kind of kick up and down the gears. Now they will engage. It's only half of it, of course. So I'm going to get a little bit of oil on there now, just to could have obviously done this as I was going, but saves it dropping out all over the place. We should just little bit of a start now anyway. Could have put some assembly lube on them, but it's quite messy stuff to work with, to be fair. That feels really smooth. Another little jobbed. Next little job then, while we're on the top case, is this tensioner bar. Let's just take it from there, and quite an easy fit, should be anyway. I just taped up this little clip. Just a little R clip. So we just need to locate that on that pin up there. Can you see? We just underneath the top case, so we're just right underneath where the pistons are. Just see them there. So you just need to slip that in, slot it on, and fit that R clip. So we'll come in from this angle. I don't think it's tricky to wiggle on, to be fair. Maybe it is a bit tricky to wiggle on. Came off easy enough. There you go, from the top then, just need to pop the little R clip through that hole. I'm not even sure if you can see the... There you go, that's slightly better. Yeah, just slot it through there, and then that is fitted. Right, probably can't even see anything here, so yeah, apologies, but probably going to get in the way of the camera. So I think I might need some different pliers. Always good to have lots of different types of pliers, and these ones are the longest I've got, and they're used to belong to one of my uncles that passed away a couple of years ago. Yep, no issues there. Right, so I think internally that is it for the upper crankcase. So we've got a couple of bits to fit to the lower crankcase, so we'll get onto that next. Namely this little bracket here first. It's I think it's just a little guide rail bracket. Right. No idea whether this has got a torque spec on it. Good to know exactly what it's called, actually, wouldn't it? I can go look it up. Is that a 10? Nah, it's going to be an 8. Let's get an extension. Be a bit easier, wouldn't it? No, there's no torque spec for these. Didn't think there would be, to be honest, but let's see if there's a bit more we can pop onto that just to make sure it's all good and tight. Yeah, it's all fine. Okay, right, just another guide rail to put on, and there's 4 in total, but only 2 we're fitting presently. Let's just take that off. That was just, as you can see, looking after the bolts. So I just ran it through the parts washer really quickly, and just got any little bits off it. Giving it a bit of a spray over with WD-40 just to remove all the fluid, and I'm just using a little bit of Scotch-Brite to clean up these surfaces here, which just seemed like the coating had come off and they'd gone down to the metal and they'd tarnished a little bit, just with a little bit of rust there. That seems alright, to be honest. So everything's freed up nicely. Right, okie dokie. A lot of the engine bolts are meant to lubricate, so I took these out and dropped a bit of oil in, so I'm going to do the same here. Certainly not going to do it any harm. Definitely not Loctiting any of this in. Oh God, my hands are so oily now I can't get a good hold on this, but kind of biting its way in, so I wonder if that was previously, well no, there's no evidence of Loctite on those threads, but anyway. Right, well that's the last of the internal engine components that need to go in with the cases apart. So I'm going to need to flip the lower case upside down in order to fit the remaining internal bits. To do that I'm going to need to put the cases together because you've got a few bits there that will foul otherwise, and anyway, next job, put them together. So I'm just going to prep the surfaces and then we can get ready to drop the top case down. I'm going to need to clean up all of the bolts, so you've got all of the external crankcase halve bolts, and then you've got all of the crankshaft bolts. There's 14 of those, 6 internal, 8 external. They all need a good clean up there. The heads of the external ones are covered in paint. All of them have got red oxide, white oxide, etc. on them. So I'm going to get and do that in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you next time.